back to my channel. So today's video is actually a idea I got from a fellow YouTuber, so I will link Stephanie Tamayo's video in the description box below, but I was really into it. I was just kind of interested to see her responses because two of the notes that she obviously dislikes and she chose, I love. And I hope none of you get offended. Like, I never get offended about these things. I actually think it's really interesting that people can have really different experiences with notes, because obviously the ones I like and the ones, more importantly, that I dislike that we'll get into seem like so clear and obvious to me why you would also feel that way, but of course people don't. So I've chosen 5 of my own, and I will link all the fragrances in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So what I did is I picked one fragrance I like and one I dislike for each of the notes that I don't like. It was kind of hard, obviously, because I would say on average, or more than average, I don't like fragrances with that particular note, but I did find ones where I'm like, okay, in this, I like it. Just to be able to kind of give you guys a little bit of a spectrum. Also, unfortunately for me, in my version of this video, I own all the ones, even the ones I don't dislike. I don't like, and the ones I dislike, but it'll be great for you guys because I can give kind of on the spot comparisons. So the first note is a note I pretty much dislike in everything where it's prominent. And it was a note that was a lot more prominently used in the past, and I think it's less so used in designer fragrances now. It's definitely still obviously used, but it's way less used, and I think it's one of the notes that one of like the fragrance main companies had actually had to stop using it because of health reasons or what have you. You guys can read up on that. But anyways, the note in question is oak moss. Really super mossy smells have never done it for me, and I did, like I said, struggle to find one that I did like, but we will get into that one. And they're actually both from the same house, which happened by accident. But goes even further to show that you can find a note or a fragrance you like even with a note you hate sometimes in the same house. So the one I picked to kind of showcase that is super mossy, at least on my skin, and that's Cristal. It's the Eau de Toilette by Chanel. I really wouldn't have gotten this because I knew 99% it was not going to do it for me. I really wouldn't have gotten this if I hadn't found it in this like hole in the wall store while I was traveling for like an unbelievably inexpensive price. I don't know what he was thinking to sell it at that price, but I felt it would be irresponsible to leave it there in the store. So I picked it up, but it's very mossy. Very oak moss heavy. There's some citrus in the top notes, but it is doing really nothing to freshen it up, and it really smells so authentically oak moss-esque that I feel as though I'm like, I smell like the stones by a pond that have like gathered moss. Like, it really is doing me nor the people around me any favors. If this is a fragrance you love, then all the power to you. I hope you find it for as good of a deal that I did, but this is kind of described on the bottle itself as a fresh floral, and I would have to disagree with that. I think it's a very green. There's definitely some citrus elements and some floral notes in there, but at the end of the day on the skin, it is not what I would describe as a fresh floral, and it is very oak moss heavy. However, the alternative, and the only fragrance that honestly came to mind where I could show you that, this was a fragrance that highlighted oak moss that I like, is also by Chanel, and this is Platinum Egoiste Eau de Toilette. This is technically a men's fragrance, I really like this one. You do definitely get a note of oak moss that I think becomes a little bit more apparent on the skin, and kind of like the heart and dry down. And that's why I like it more. There is such a almost barbershop-esque element to this fragrance in its opening and its heart. In the majority of the scent, the oak moss is very hidden, it's very subdued. It's more so, in my opinion, kind of extending the wear time and the power and the sillage of the scent rather than playing kind of like a highlighting role in the scent itself, which is the only way I like oak moss, is when it's kind of hidden 99% of the way. So anyways, I really like this scent. I feel like as a Chanel men's fragrance, if you're looking to gift something to someone, this does not get enough hype. I know Chanel, like Bleu de Chanel and maybe the newer ones obviously have people more interested, but I picked this up on a whim and I really, really enjoy it, and it actually has really good lasting power as well. So that is oak moss. We will move on to the second note, which I'm curious to see whether you guys will guess it. I will just say right off the bat, I won't keep you on your toes, vanilla did not make the top 5 list. I feel like I've progressed to the point where there's so many vanilla scents that I enjoy now that I'm removing the kind of title of vanilla hater from my scent biography because I like it now. So vanilla is not one of them, but you may have guessed that honey would be one of them, and if you guessed that, then you'd be correct. This is a lot more of like a sometimes, sometimes not, because I love honey, like to eat honey. I adore it. And there's definitely cases where I really like honey. It's just very split. So again, we'll start with the one I don't like. And that is Oud Ambroisie by Maison Lancôme. This broke my heart when I didn't like it, you guys. I was just like, why? This has the quality that I've smelled in a couple other fragrances, not that many, thankfully, that I own. I think I couldn't remember any of the others anyways, but this has the sour honey note. And the sour honey note on my skin becomes very urine-esque. It gets kind of pungent, and it, even on like the cleanest skin, freshly showered, which I am right now, even in the air, like not even on the skin, just kind of turns my stomach. I never want to smell like this because to me it smells dirty. It smells like it has like a urine sour vibe to it. And it further breaks my heart because I love this line, and it's the only one from the range where I really never reach for it. So I probably should, if I ever sell decants of this and just keep like, I don't even know, 20 mil for myself, just for reference. But every once in a while I come back. I haven't sprayed this one in ages, and I just sprayed it and I don't like it still. So whenever a honey note is going to pull sour in that way, it's just not for me. So I'm kind of apprehensive about honey in fragrances because of that. However, when it's fresh, when it's sweet, and if it leans kind of waxy even, then I'm all on board. I could have picked a couple of fragrances, and now I'm thinking I should have picked Nectar Love by DKNY. That one's really beautiful. Or Lush Honey I Wash the Kids. Love that one. But I actually ended up picking this one because it's such a beautiful spring fragrance, and kind of spring summer. And because it's been discontinued, I kind of forgot about it for a while. But this is Honey by Marc Jacobs. It's a very shampoo-y honey, which is another honey I'm down for. It really does smell like delicious floral, with a tinge of just like a very clean honey scent in a shampoo. Like it has that shampoo-y element to it as well. I love this. Again, with like the DKNY honey, it pulls more waxy. With the Honey I Wash the Kids, that pulls a little bit more kind of beeswax, gourmand, caramel vibes. All of those are good. It really is just when it pulls sour, it is a no-go for me. All right, so now we get to the third note. The third note I picked was leather. And leather is, I suppose, like honey, a little bit more of a split. But I'm more apprehensive about leather than I am about the honey note. But it's better than oak moss. So it kind of falls somewhere in between those two. I knew immediately which leather I was going to pick for my least favorite. And my favorite, I had a couple, but we'll get to that one in a sec. So my least favorite is one of the most heartbreaking scents. Like, I hate that this is the fragrance they chose for this name and this line. But Kilian, you guys know I like this line. I really, really was into them. I got, the full collection. I did a video way long time ago. But this one was name-wise what I loved the most. It's called Yes, I Was Madly in Love, but that was yesterday. I've talked about it before. I just love the name, and I wish they would have picked something. Like, I wish I could have formulated the fragrance for this, because what they picked, you guys, is the most awful combination of two notes I struggle with. Obviously, one of them is leather, and it's this burnt tire leather that I can't see anyone like the leather in this. Even if you're a leather fanatic, it is like, oh, just I don't know. It's awful. Why they would do this? Why? I have no idea. And the only other thing to offset it is raspberry. And raspberry, I did think about putting in my top 5, but it's definitely in my top 10, but it's not in my top 5 because it can pull. I couldn't think of like a raspberry fragrance that I really love, honestly, but it can pull this kind of sour, off-putting vibe sometimes, and that is the exact raspberry that they picked in this. So it's like, on one hand you have burnt leather, rubber, the other hand you have this raspberry that is doing nothing but adding tartness, and you have the most beautiful, interesting, like kind of suggestive name with absolutely nothing to show for it. I cannot describe how heartbroken I am every time I see this fragrance. I never wear it. Absolutely never. And the truth is, it should have been something that had a very feminine, floral powderiness on one hand, like a duality, and then something that was like darker and richer, because it's like, but that was yesterday, to kind of offset it. And instead, both notes suck. So I hate that. The leather I did choose, on a happier note, is True Lust. This is a fragrance I have not worn in a while, even though it's like one of my faves. It's just perfection. The leather in this is really much more subdued. It is luxurious. I feel like it's like expensive leather. It's not burnt. It's like a really beautiful leather jacket, but then there's powdery, kind of like rice powder, violet vibes. There's a bit of a spice to this. I really, really like this fragrance. It's very interesting. It's got like 1,000,001 notes, and I feel like you can really smell the 1,000,001 notes in it. I didn't realize how much of this I've used. I am going through it, but I love this one, and a perfect way to do leather, in my opinion. Then, which one should I leave for last? Yeah, then I'll do Patchouli, which I think a lot of you were expecting. I think a lot of people don't. Patchouli can be hard for a lot of people. I know a lot of people like it and a lot of people dislike it. I certainly fall into the category of people who don't love patchouli. Like oak moss, it's used in fragrances oftentimes to kind of amp up the lasting power. It's usually a base note. Sometimes it ends up smelling more prominent. Unlike oak moss, it's still very, very widely used, and I believe too widely used. I think there are other notes that you can use to, make a fragrance more prominent. And I just feel like it's overplayed at this point. The way I don't like it the most, because there's a way that I suppose I like it, and that's a little bit when it's hidden, but it's when it gets to the sweaty, what I call the sweaty patchouli. Some people call it like a hippie patchouli or a dirty patchouli. It smells like body odor, in my view. And no fragrance has that enough or more in my collection than La Vie est Belle, the original. This is just the eau de parfum. I will spray it. It's a shame, really, because I can smell sort of where it could be without that note, but it's very ingrained. Like, this is a very fruit chuli, floral chuli fragrance. The patchouli is very prominent. It's there from the start to the base. I can just smell it so strong. And I have never been able to kind of get over that. As it's on my skin also, I feel like the patchouli gets stronger and stronger and sweatier, and it makes me like self-conscious because it smells so like body odor that, again, even on the cleanest skin, it's really doing me personally no favors. So don't like that. The one I do like, and it's because personally to me, I don't get patchouli in this, but I know people can smell it on this, and it's obviously a note, and that's Bitter Peach by Tom Ford. This to me is a very peach liquor forward scent. It's a very like warm rum, cognac, peach with some spices, with like a little bit of a peach ring, but not too, it's not very like youthful candy like. I feel like it's definitely more mature. This has very good lasting power, and I suppose there is a bit of like patchouli maybe as it's warmed up on the skin, but it's beautifully blended. It's so beautifully done. It is not in any way sweaty. It is just, I think, adding and amplifying the fragrance. A lot like with oak moss, where this is just quietly amplified by oak moss. This is quietly amplified by patchouli in a way that does not bother someone, in my opinion, that strays away from patchouli. So I love Bitter Peach. All right, and finally, the last note is Peony. And I've talked before about how it's not just that it's peony, it's when peony is mixed with pink pepper, because I think a lot of the times those two notes are mixed together, and a lot of the times peony tends to pull at a pink peppery vibe in and of itself. So I understand why those two notes would often be paired together. And a lot of the times they also include rose, which ends up just being hidden and subdued by the peony pink pepper. So it's really a trio of those notes, even though it's actually the peony that's the issue and not the pink pepper nor the rose. So in my view, if you're getting, and I have so many of these that I just picked one, but I have got, unfortunately, on my hands, a good grouping of these peony pink pepper scents that smell identical. And I feel like so many houses have created scents like that, and they obviously must be doing it for someone, but they are not doing it for me. So this isn't necessarily like the be all and end all of the worst peony scent, but there are so many in my collection that smell near identical to this that I just picked the most like recognizable one, and that's Rosa or Peony Nobile. Sorry, this has the rose, it has the pink pepper, and it has that peony. It smells so, it's got a beautiful sprayer. Give credit where it's due, but it smells like every one of those other scents. It smells like the Toka one. I forget what that one's called. Gia or something. It smells like the Ludico and what have you one. It smells like a million other scents that smell exactly like this. They smell, at this point, generic. They smell spiced in a kind of, it reminds me of like old school carnation, which is another thing I don't like. And again, it just does me no favors. I feel like it does not ever warm up on my skin. It doesn't suit me. It is perfumey and I never use that in a bad way, because I don't see that as like a bad way to describe fragrance. And this is the only case where I feel like that's the case. And I've just realized that I obviously don't like peony, and I don't like how it smells. And I definitely don't like how it smells on me. So this is the most cop-out answer because this does have both peony and pink pepper. And they're listed there. They're supposedly prominent aspects or prominent enough aspects within the fragrance, but I don't smell either of those notes. So this is my favorite peony scent, Blanche by Byredo. I would consider it I was very surprised to learn they were notes because to me this is a very clean, soapy, even aldehydic, bordering on laundry, but not like your quintessential laundry scent. It's a very clean, white, aldehydic, soapy, maybe even like slightly venturing into plasticky, but not fully there. But nowhere does it smell like that peony or the way a peony kind of is spiced and perfumey. So I love it. I mean, I think if it's gonna be in a fragrance, I would rather it be to this level of subdued, mixed in with a lot of clean notes, and I think maybe that's the trick of making me be able to appreciate a peony scent is when it's very soft and very cleaned up, because I think that spice, again, sort of on the same lines of patchouli, but not to that extent, can just pull a little bit like dirty or spiced in a bad way on my skin personally. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I found it fun to talk about, the good and the bad, because that's definitely an aspect of fragrance collection and fragrance buying. You're not going to love every single note and every single fragrance, even if you're like me and you like pretty much almost everything. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, don't forget to check out all the links in the description box. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.